to Colin Bunyan and his latest video recipe. This one's going to be the ultimate in comfort cooking, steak and ale pudding. Now the lighting's a bit weird because we've got fence panels up above the window, so not a lot of light's coming in. I apologise for that. And as you can tell, we've got a very dodgy clock on the oven, that's why it explains the beeping. Not everything goes to plan on this show. For the filling, I've got 700 grams of lean diced beef. You're only going to need one, maybe two onions if they're small. Red ones are preferable, I'll explain why. A little bit of lard, okay, not a huge amount. A beef stock pot, 500 ml of water as well. A lovely dark beer. Let's talk about the beer before we get too far in. Okay? When it comes to steak pudding, a dark beer is the best one. I've gone for Old Peculiar, but Hobgoblin, Doombar, any sort of dark beer or a stout would work. If you get Guinness Imperial West Indies Stout as well, that's a beautiful one. Okay? For the suet pastry, dried suet, like most people, I don't have access to fresh suet. It's preferable, but it is tricky to work with. Self-raising plain flour, so self-raising flour and some water. You also need salt and pepper. Right, now the lard is smoking hot. Put the onions in, sweat them down for 5 to 6 minutes. You want them charred, you want them caramelised, you want them absolutely beautiful. That's what you're looking the onions to be, nice and charred. So we're going to reserve those. The lard has melted. Now in batches, so you don't crowd the pan, put the beef in. You put it all in and there's too little room to manoeuvre, you end up with meat that's boiled rather than charred. So take your time, do it in batches, watch out for spitting and give it a few minutes per batch. Right, that's all the beef and onions poured in. Now what we do is 500 ml of beef stock. Beef stock and 500 ml of real ale. Equal quantities. We give that a 10-minute head start just to reduce down a little bit. Generous with the black pepper. I'm not going to add herbs to it. Can do if you wish. A little bit of salt, but not too much. Whilst that is gently simmering down, I want to show you something, right? That is a plate of beef and onion that's been char grilled. Now it's not cooked through. I'll repeat, it's not cooked through. That'll need to simmer for at least an hour before we bung it into the pudding. But all that crust, all that gnarliness, all the black bits in there, all that's pure golden flavour, but it's stuck to the inside of the pan. So that's what this purpose is for. All the liquid goes in, we scrape the bottom of the pan, so the flavours that are stuck to the bottom of the pan now go into the cooking liquid, and once that's up to temperature and starting to reduce, we bung the meat in and the onions and we'll let that simmer. That's coming up to speed, so now what we do is we now place these in. Don't dump them in because otherwise you'll get some splash and you definitely don't want to burn yourself. Once you get near the end, you can, and scrape out all the juices that have been rested. That is free flavour. You don't want to waste that. Now bring that up to speed. Easy to put it on. And that simmers for an hour. Right, what I've got on here is 250 grams of self-raising flour. I'm going to add 120 grams of dried suet. This will just add enough water to bind it together. That's all. It is one of the easiest pastries to make. Do it by hand. Okay, because we need to add a bit of flour to it as we roll it out. So a light dusting, very, very. You don't need the dough, but you do need to make it so it's fairly smooth. As I said, suet pastry is a lot more forgiving than other pastries, so you can really afford to give it a minute or so to make it the best you can. Into the bowl, rest 30 minutes at least, room temperature. Doesn't even need to go in the fridge. Prep work for the pudding, okay? This is key. First of all, small bit of foil. I don't know how well you can see what I'm doing here. But fold into cantilever strips. Okay. And fold in half again. So you have something that looks like that. Okay? And then, not too tightly, spiral around the foil. Okay? So you have something that looks like that. That has to take the weight of that whole pudding. So it's got to be smooth, but it's also got to be fairly long. That way the pudding doesn't touch the base of the pan and conduct too much heat. Better cooking. Okay. Soft butter. And liberally grease. Once the prep work is done, lightly dust the surface with flour. I mean, very lightly, because you don't want to add too much, otherwise the suet pastry won't work that well. What we do is we roll it so forgiving, this pastry, so forgiving. Now you don't want to roll this out too thin, that's the one thing. This pastry needs a bit of solidarity to it. So you're probably looking, I don't know, imperial measurements, third of an inch. If you do metric measurements, about 8. And you cut out a quarter. You then take the rest, and you slump it in making sure it goes all the way around the bottom. Be careful not to tear the pastry. I'm pinching the seam, and that's what it should look like. Beautifully done inside. Now we take our steak, ale and onion filling, and we carefully scoop it in. I mean, that smells fantastic. It isn't even bloody cooked yet. Stretch it to do a good seal all around the outside. Again, trimming the excess. Got that. Now we need to do more prep. One strip of greaseproof paper that is approximately the same width as the pudding. Split in half, and you cover it twice. Okay. Foil, and you crimp that over the top. Now, I don't want it to be too tight of a crimp up the top, because you want to have a little bit of heat for expansion. Butcher's string. Carefully send the string 3 times under. Okay? 3 times under. And then watch it snap. Not everything goes right the first time round. Let's okay, that's designed to keep it waterproof. Okay, now pudding, medium heat, boiling water, halfway up the pudding. No more than that. You don't want it to go much further than that. Right, lid, steam. 2 hours. Right, now remove the string, the grease proof, and the oh man, have a look at this. That just smells absolutely bloody insane. Moment of truth. Is this going to come out in one piece? Yes! Oh, would you have a look at... Oh man, it's cracked. This is something I've been waiting a decade to have. First time. Oh man. If you haven't had suet pastry before, it's not like any other pastry. It's almost like a sponge. It sounds bizarre, but so light and beautiful with this pudding. I'm going to finish this off. This is comfort food at its finest. Absolutely beautiful. Catch you next time.